So the first thing with your trailer lights is you want to find out, is it just one light that's not working? Is it all the lights not working? Is it on one side of the trailer? Is it just the marker lights, or is it the turn signals, or is it, just what's going on? So a lot of times when you find just one light, then you need to go look at one light. If it's no lights at all, then we need to start looking at, well, the closest and the easiest thing to look for is, do we have power coming out of our truck? A lot of things, these work really well. So if you've got a truck, you can plug this into your truck. This is an adapter. It goes from an RV style plug to a 4-flat, and it's got little lights on here: trailer light, marker light, right turn, left turn, and they'll all light up. So you can go in the truck and turn on your marker lights and see, are we getting power to the marker lights, or are we getting power to our turn signals? If we're not, the closest place to look would be to go up to the fuse panel and see, get the owner's manual out and see, do we have a blown fuse? What's going on with the fuses? But if it lights up and you have power, then we're going to continue on and we're going to look someplace else. So we've eliminated, let's just say we have power. We've eliminated everything in the truck. So now we got to go look at the trailer. So all of a sudden you turn on your turn signals and your marker lights start dimming, glowing a little bit, and you're thinking, what in the world's going on here? Well, you've probably got a bad ground. So what happens is it feeds juice all the way back through the ground and starts lighting up the marker lights, because the turn signals are trying to go through ground at the marker lights. So all kinds of strange things happen when you have a bad ground. But anyhow, these are some of the adapters. This one here is for tractor trailer trucks. That's a 7-way plug. That's the big one. It really is handy. You can plug it in to the back of the pigtail going to your trailer. You can pull the pigtail all the way up in the cab. You can step on the brakes, turn on your turn signals, put on your marker lights, and you can watch every one of these light up. So you've eliminated the truck. If it all lights up, you've eliminated the truck. So now that's 50% of your problem done. This one here plugs into a pickup like an RV style plug, and it converts it down to a 6-pin, which you don't see a lot of these, but it's a 6-pin. But it has little lights here too, see? So you got right turn, left turn, electric brake, trailer marker. So they all will light up when it's plugged into the back of the truck. This one's my favorite. It works real well, especially if you're working on a 4-flat for like a boat trailer or something like that. So that one works really well. The next thing we need to understand is the wiring diagram, and all the wiring diagrams for every trailer is the same. So green is always a right turn signal. Yellow is always a left turn signal. Brown is always a marker light, and white is always ground. No matter what you're working on. If you're working on a tractor trailer truck or what, those 4 colors never change. Now, if you go to a 6-pin like a tractor trailer truck, there's a great big one at 12 o'clock. That's your ground. The middle one is your auxiliary, which is blue. The bottom one is red, which is your stoplights. Then on either side, you have yellow, which is a left turn, green, which is a right turn. Then you have a brown and a black. So the brown and the black are both marker lights. The brown is your tail lights, and your black is usually your running lights. But there's 2 separate circuits for your marker lights. On an RV plug, like this one right here, which is usually in the back bumper of a truck, you'll have your 2 turn signals, if you can see this or not. here's your 2 turn signals. Left turn, yellow. Right turn is green. Backup lights in the middle. Power here. Running lights on the top. Ground on the bottom here. And electric brakes on the bottom here. You can plug all that in with one of these right here to the back bumper of your truck, just like that, and have somebody sitting in the truck, and you can watch every function to see what's going on. Turn signals, running lights. Real handy little tool. They're not expensive. You can buy them just about anywhere. But cheap little plugs. They save you so much time when you're trying to find out why your lights don't work. Save you so much time. So the next tool that I like to use for just about everything is a set of retractable leads. This is a 30-foot set. This set here is a 10-foot set, and they pull out, and then you have 2 jumpers with alligator clips, so you can jump and test and check and see what's going on. When you get done, you just roll them over and you wind them up on the back side like that. Real handy. This particular one came from Napa. This one here is a little different brand. But whether you get a 10-foot, 20-foot, 30-foot, whatever, they're just really handy to have. The next good tool to use is a test light. So if you have a test light, you can go and you can test by hooking it to ground someplace, hook it to ground, and then when you touch the plug, you're going to see, is it hot or not? So you got power to it, right? Yep. This will not tell you if it's positive or negative. It doesn't matter. As long as it's got 12 volts, it's going to light up no matter what. This one right here, I kind of like this one. This is a good one. This is a digital test light, and it'll tell you how many volts you have. So if you've only got 6 volts, it'll show you 6.1, 6.2, whatever you have. But it's real handy if you're checking to see that you're getting enough juice back there. Like if you have a light that's real dim or something like that, it'll check to see that you have a bad ground, or it'll check to see if you're getting enough juice back there. Real handy little tool there. The next one is a digital voltometer. This is a Fluke. This is a nice one. I really like it. It's got AC voltage, DC voltage, milliamps, ohms, diode, amperage. It's got about everything that you would ever want. It's got it on there. The only thing you have to do, like there's DC voltage right there. So the only thing you really have to do is if the battery goes bad, you have to replace the battery. But usually it'll come on and it'll tell you if you need to put a battery in it or not. But so if we went over here and we checked this battery right now, I'd tell you like 12.4 volts or 12.5 volts. Really a handy tool. I can't do without a Fluke meter. This Fluke meter here, I have had this one for probably over 30 years. This thing is ancient. It's been thrown around, hit up against the wall, banged on, and it still works. The only thing I have to do every now and then is put a battery in it. But you can see it lights up. If it needs a battery, it'll tell you it needs a battery. This particular one, I took the test leads out of it and I hooked it up to a power probe. And I'll show you the reason behind the power probe. So if you go and you check something and it shows you that you have 12 volts with a test light and the light lights up, right? A lot of times you could have one little strand of wire and a test light will light up because it doesn't take much juice. This power probe, when you push down on that button, it throws a load on that wire. and you can watch to see right here on the fluke meter how far that voltage drops. So like right now, I don't know if you can see this or not. So right now I'm going to hook it up to this. I'm going to ground this probe. Ground it right there. And get this up here where you can see it. So I'm going to touch the power to the terminal right there. And it shows I have 12.14 volts DC. Now I'm going to push that button and I'm going to throw a load on it. See it drop down? I let off, it comes back up. It puts a load on that wire to make sure that that wire is a good wire. It's really a handy tool if you're checking for something that you check it with a test light and it works, but it actually won't work because it doesn't have a load on it. So the power probe is a real handy tool when it comes to checking the wiring. I've made a little test here for everybody to watch. And what I did was I took this set of retractable leads and I hooked the ground off of this 12 volt battery to the table. And I'm hooking the power up to the battery. So now this is hot. So let's just say, for example, that we want our stop lights to come on. So red is our stop turn light, right? So I hook my power to that, and then the white wire is ground. So I'm going to ground the white wire. There's my stop light. Now, let's take this test light right here, and let's just say that you have no lights on your trailer whatsoever. None of the lights are working, and if they do, you turn your turn signals on and then your marker lights start to blink real dim. So it's telling you that you have a bad ground. So if you was to take a test light and go to the back bumper of your truck or someplace where you have a good ground. So I'm going to ground the test light to the table. So here's my test light. And if I ground the light works. So now I've lost my ground. So I'm grounded on the workbench, and now I'm going to ground the ground wire with my test light and watch what happens. The light lights up. But also look and see my test light is lit also. See that? So it's telling you I have a bad ground. So if you was to go from the bumper on the truck to ground on the trailer and your test light lights while your lights are on, it's going to tell you that you have a bad ground. So get that out of here before I short myself out. A bad ground will really play havoc with you. Usually what they do is the grounds, like you'll take one side of the trailer and you might have 3 or 4 white wires all together, and you got a bolt that bolts it to the trailer chassis. Those bolts get corroded. So you need to make sure those are all good and clean, and you need to make sure that you have a good ground. The white wire is always ground. You need to make sure you have a good ground. They usually ground, like the right side will all ground together, the left side will all ground together, and then a lot of times, like your marker lights, as you go up through the trailer on the sides of the trailer, they might ground right there at the marker light. They might have a whole self-contained grounding harness that goes all the way up. It's just something that you have to check. But grounds will give you a lot of trouble, One thing that kills me is when I see people take a test light like this, and they walk up to a wire and they stick that test light in that wire to check to see if it's hot. And here's what happens. About 3 or 4 months or a year from now, where they stuck that probe in that wire, they created a hole. Now moisture got in that hole, and it'll turn that wire completely green until that wire corrodes in half. and there's nothing left of the wire. Don't ever stick a hole in the wire. Always go and check, or build you a little plug or something to check with, or buy you one of these, but don't stick holes in the wires, because the only thing that's going to do is it's going to come back and haunt you. The next thing that you never want to do, and when I worked in the trucking industry, if they caught you using these things, they would fire you on the spot, is these little guys here. You stick the wire all the way through, you stick the other wire in there, you squeeze this down with a pair of pliers, and then this comes over and locks it down. They are notorious for corroding in here so bad that the wire will fall apart. So if you ever see these things in the wires, you're going to start looking for your problems, because you're going to find them real quick. But they are notorious for giving troubles, so don't use them. Do not use them. If you're going to use a type of a connector, I'm going to show you what kind to use here in a minute. But let's go back to, if none of the lights were working at all, and you get your owner's manual out, I'm going to show you some different kinds of fuses. The owner manual will tell you if the fuses are in the engine compartment, or if they're under the dash, or in the dash, or where they're at. But there's several different types of fuses that they use. They use the old glass fuse, which you don't see them much anymore. A lot of your newer cars and pickups and such use these case fuses like this, where they plug into they actually plug in, but it's a case. Then you have the old ATC fuses, which they're nice, you can see through them. Also, you can take your test light, and you'll see on the ends of these, they got a little pin sticking out on each side, so you can actually go up to it and check it while it's in the fuse box. You can reach in here and touch these with your test light and see if your test light lights up. These little minis, you see how flat they are? I mean, you can look at the element right there, but they're the same way. You can walk right up to them and touch them right in the center there with your test light and see if you got power on both sides. Then this is the next little mini. So you got 3 of these little case fuses, ATC and down. Sometimes you have circuit breakers like this. But no matter what you have, if you're in a fuse panel and you're looking for no power at all to your trailer and you find your fuses, you'll probably find your problem. That's the easiest place to look, is to go to the fuse panel and look at your fuses if you have no power. That's the first place you want to go looking. So I'm going to show you some crimping pliers here, and then I'm going to show you what I like to use. But these is a relatively cheap pair of crimping pliers. They make some real good ones. This is just a cheap pair, but it's pretty handy for somebody that's out on the road in an RV or something like that. You got your cutter, you got your strippers, and you got your crimpers. Handy to all have. So let me show you these connectors here. So these are heat shrink connectors, and you'll see that they have this like a sleeve on them right here on both sides. So when you heat that up with a heat gun or a cigarette lighter or whatever you have, it'll shrink this all the way down around the wire, just like heat shrink. And it makes a perfectly weather-tight connection, and they do not corrode. And they make all different kinds. You can have some that's got lug ends on them, some that's got push, some females. I mean, they make all different kinds, so that whatever you're using. Now these here, these are non-heat shrink ends. So when you look at those, you see that's just a regular old blue or a yellow. Those do not shrink. Those stay just like that. And they're real susceptible to getting a lot of corrosion in there. So if I have my druthers, I use the heat shrink, and that way it keeps you from having problems later on. Here's another one of those splices. This is a little bigger one that you can see. So one wire goes in and dead ends, and the other wire goes all the way through, and then you squeeze this with your pliers. It smashes that all the way down through the wire, and then this lid folds over and locks it down. But man, oh man, they corrode something terrible. So keep that in mind if you're trying to get your lights fixed. So with all that being said, you go out and get you some test leads and a test light, and I got all the faith in the world in you. You'll get her figured out. It's not that difficult. Just take your time. But buy a few tools and you'll be just fine. So thanks for watching.